Welcome back to another video. Today we're working on the 2001 Ford Expedition. Getting ready to go on a trip pretty soon here, and it's at 150,000 miles. And I've recently picked this up at about that mileage. So I talked to the previous owner and he said these previous things have not been done yet. Ford recommends doing them at 100,000 miles, so it's a little overdue and we're going to knock them out. But those things are transmission fluid change, the front differential, rear differential, and transfer case fluid all should be changed and serviced. Recently did a coolant flush, well not really a flush, but a drain and refill when we did everything else. So time to go ahead and knock out these other fluids. So right over here, this is for our front diff. We got 2 quarts of 75W90. For the rear, we have full synthetic 75W40, and this does come with the limited slip additive already, so we should not need anything additional. Pull one of these out. SynPower contains limited slip additive, so we should be good there. And then looking at a couple videos, looks like people take about 8 quarts of the ATF. So 2 of these quarts are probably going to wind up in the transfer case, and then the rest of them are going to the transmission. Takes the same fluid, doesn't really matter, so it should be fine. But that's really that. Other than that, I think that's about it. So I went ahead and jacked up the back of the vehicle, and I forgot this thing has IRS in the rear, independent rear suspension. It kind of sucks, so it means our ability to get to the rear diff cover is not great, but it looks like it has a drain plug under there, so we should be able to drain it and refill it, and should be good. So I'm going to start in the rear diff because to me that's the easiest, and then we'll kind of move our way forward as time permits. May not do the trans in this video. I did buy a new filter right here. So we have a new transmission filter. This is a Wix. Comes with a nice rubber gasket. So there's your part number right there. And then I also have a Fram Ultra Synthetic. I've done some reviews. It's a pretty good filter. But previously we had done a couple of some work to the bottom over here, and I reused the oil filter. Couldn't get it to seal right, so I'm still leaking some oil there from that, which is annoying, but we'll go ahead and take care of that in this video. So without further ado, let's hop on the rear end, go ahead and do that, and then kind of keep going forward. Also, almost forgot, big thing you're going to want is a fluid transfer pump like this. This is like $6 off Harbor Freight. You're gonna need that for, I think, the front differential. If I'm not mistaken, I just did one on the F-150 pretty recently, and it was a turd. You basically have to siphon it out and pump it in. There's really no drain plug on it, so it's pretty annoying design. But once again, that's that. Let's go ahead and hop on the rear diff first. All right, underneath the car here, or truck, whatever you want to call it, can't really figure it out. So this is the fill bolt right there. It is a 3/8 inch ratchet, which has an adapter on my 1/2 inch, but that fits. Always make sure you can get that sucker out before you go ahead and take out the drain bolt in case you can't get it back in for whatever reason. And this is obviously our drain. So I'm gonna go ahead and start loosening that guy, just make sure we can get it out. Pretty confident we'll be able to just fine. And then this guy, I don't think my adapter is gonna work, so I'm gonna get an actual 3/8 inch ratchet for right here, drain it out. Should be good. Almost with the guy's time lapse, there's really nothing special. Drain it out, put a new one on, and easy day. I'm very happy this has a drain on it because a lot of the other 8.8s, especially in the F-150s and other stuff, the whole cover has to come off. Obviously on this one, with this whole IRS suspension back here, not very doable. So let's go ahead and knock it out. And that is why we are changing it. That is absolutely disgusting. You want this to be a nice golden yellow color. That is very gross. So usually it's nothing terrible. It doesn't necessarily necessitate wear, but the oils do break down over years, and this vehicle is a little over 10 years old now, 2012. So yep, that is 100% why we're doing it. You'll notice I went ahead and checked our front bolt right here beforehand, just to make sure it was loose, and it was, no issues. So yeah, I mean, oh man, that's yeah, it's pretty gross. So we're gonna go ahead and let that all drain out, and then I'll show you how we pump in the new stuff. And then you're always gonna have a little bit of debris on here. That's where it's just doing its job. It's sucking up a little metal. Wipe this bolt off all the way. If you want, you can put a little thread sealer on here. I've never had an issue, but you can. And then we're gonna put it back in. Don't over tighten it so you don't break anything. done. Pretty straightforward and easy. Took about, looks like 2 point, about, I don't know if you see that line right there. I don't know. Yeah, almost 3 quarts. But I forgot this one doesn't have axle tubes. Most 8.8s have axle tubes that go to the end, but being this is just a pumpkin, no axle tube, probably with less capacity. So that makes sense. And yeah, we're good. So pretty much done with there. Now we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up a little bit and then move on to the next part. So front differential is up next. You can see all my residual oil. That's from my oil filter that I did not replace, dripping out of there. So we'll be doing that a little bit later. But there's an easy way and a hard way to do this. So the hard way, and maybe the proper way, but I'm not gonna do that, is taking off the power steering rack right here, and then you can take the front diff cover off. I don't really think there's another way to do it. I guess you might be able to take off the drive shaft, disconnect the whole front diff and drop the whole diff down, but that's a lot of work. I'm not gonna do that. So the much easier way to do it is take out the fill plug, use that same transfer pump we have, suck out the old fluid, and then pump in the new stuff. So that's what I'm gonna do. I did it on F-150 pretty recently for my buddy, and worked out significantly, well, I think it worked out pretty well. Stuff that came out of there is pretty gross, and worked out. So we can do the same thing and do it here. So without further ado, same deal as the rear. Let's go ahead and knock it out. Just an FYI, that red hose is the one that comes with this pump. Originally, I went ahead and put on 2 shorter black hoses as I needed it. However, I might just wind up cutting one of these, but yep, so that's the one that comes in, and you're gonna see me rotate the tire a little bit, at least so it's in the F-150, and it helps rotate and suck the hose down to the bottom where we can drain it out. So just FYI, that's kind of what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this plug out, and we'll go ahead and keep going. All right, so I had my wife help me out a little bit. She rotated the tire while I could put the hose in. That way it helped kind of like, there's the ring gears right here with a bunch of bolts on it. You may or may not be able to see it inside there. And not the ring gear necessarily, but the actual differential. So by rotating it, it kind of helps draw the hose to the bottom, feed it while it's being rotated, and you're good to go. So that's that. Now we just do the opposite, same as the rear. We're just gonna stick the hose in there and refill it. Should be pretty straightforward. It should be a full 2 quarts. And then also, obviously, in between, make sure you are draining this thing out. So I usually just let it hang on the workbench over the drip pan and pump it a few times, and then that'll most of the old fluid drain off. Alrighty, so the front takes 75W90. It's regular stuff, good to go. Doesn't need to be synthetic or anything like that. It's all good. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that in there. It does also contain a limited slip additive. Not really needed for the fronts, but it is what it is, not gonna hurt anything. So we go ahead and pump it in just like we did with the drain. All right, easy day. So as you saw, I overfilled a little bit, so I went ahead and let some drain out. It is at a bit of a backwards angle, so I didn't let it all drain out. Went ahead and plugged it up when the flow slowed down a good bit, and really that's also the check hole, so you want it just about that level, and we should be good to go. So when you took the plug out initially, you saw some drain out, so that's how you can tell it's at an angle. Yeah, good to go on the front. I'm gonna go ahead and change out my oil filter real quick off camera, nothing crazy, just don't over tighten it. And I think we're gonna go ahead and move on to either the transmission, which is the pan right there, which needs to get pulled, or we'll do the transfer case next. We'll see, but gonna keep on going, let's go. Next up is the transfer case. Did my oil filter just now, seems to be easy, good to go. So transfer case, got our fill and our drain. Same deal as the diffs really, and fill with Mercon level, I think L5 is level 5 only. And right here, we got Dextron Mercon right there, LV. So this is the right stuff. Just double checking so you guys know what we're using, and shouldn't have any issues. So same deal, flip your time lapse. Let me go ahead and drain this out. We'll use our pump, fill it back up. It should be good. It should take 2 quarts. And that does that. So you saw it come out pretty gross looking. It's supposed to be red, so that means it has a little bit of overheat potentially. Nothing too crazy, but again, 150,000 miles, starts to break down after a while, so that's why you got to do it. Easy day. So next up, I guess, is the transmission. It's kind of what I've been putting off last because it sucks, but let's go ahead and get after it. Welcome to the transmission. Now, so the way this works is you got to take off all of the transmission bolts. Not transmission bolts, I'm sorry, transmission pan bolts. Our filter's going to be right here, and we have a little dipstick right there. So I believe it's a 19 millimeter. What I'm going to do after talking, or not really talking, but after watching a couple of reviews and videos on this, I'm going to take the dipstick tube out. I'm going to use my fluid transfer pump to get as much fluid out of here as I can. But the big thing is, because these are supposed to be measured while hot and running, I'm going to do my best to basically measure out the exact amount of fluid that comes out. So I'm going to put it into this other pan I have over here that we use for the transfer case. Just went ahead and dumped that out, clean out the pan again, and then I'm going to go ahead and fluid pump that stuff out. And then as we fill it up, I'm going to basically dump it back into the old containers, and we'll be able to tell how much fluid we put in or how much came out, and if we're short or if we need any more or what the deal is. So this thing makes a mess. As soon as you crack these bolts, it's going to start leaking basically transmission fluid everywhere. So that's why I'm doing it with taking the plug out first, trying to drain it down to the pan a little bit first before going any further. These look to be 8 millimeters. They're real tiny little guys. And we'll go ahead and knock this out. Let's go. Got the pan out, successfully made a mess as you guys saw. The front got caught in something and then dropped and splashed some fluid everywhere. And then the filter, straight here, this little thing popped out and dropped some more. So that was not ideal, a little messy, but honestly this thing was pretty good. All this black is a little bit of metallic stuff sticking to this magnet. It's just a magnet to make sure you're good. It's supposed to collect any metal. Looks like it did a job for 150,000 miles. Thing honestly looks pretty good. Fluid's not totally terrible, but yeah, it was definitely due for a change. So you go ahead and clean this thing up and put the new gasket on. I'm gonna go ahead and use this one. This is a reusable gasket, but like, I don't know, right there it looks like it's missing a little bit, so that could be a potential leak. Same here. So we're gonna go ahead and use the new gasket. And yeah, this will be more than enough. Should be just fine. I've used them before, no issues. That's the Wix filter. So we have our new filter as well. Right here, the bottom looks basically the same as this one. That's just got some metallic on it. But yeah, not too bad. So, go and put these out together. Whenever I figure out what the foot poundage is for each of these bolts, or inch pounds probably 89. But go ahead and torque all these things down, and we'll pretty much be done. Then we'll just have to refill it. All right, got the panel cleaned up. Hit some brake clean on the outside. Try and make sure we don't leave too much of a mess. And there we go. Hang this back in place. And now it's just time to get it under there. And I basically just put all our bolts back in. And I'm gonna do that on time lapse as well. And get her done. So let's go ahead and get it back on. All right, so just got done torquing out on the bolts, and because it's a rubber gasket, so on the metal one, basically, you're compressing down to the metal, and then obviously you can't compress anymore. With the rubber one, you can't go as tight as the metal one would be. So from the factory, they want 10 foot-pounds or 120 inch-pounds. I went with the 89 inch-pounds just because if you keep compressing it, eventually you will compress the rubber all the way, but if you make these bolt holes too compressed, they might start getting popped out, and then you can have problems with the rubber gasket. So 89 inch-pounds, I felt that was good. I saw a little bit of pop out, but nothing, nothing astronomical, nothing crazy. So I think we should be good there. I haven't seen any leaks in other vehicles I've done this with, so I'm not super worried about it. But now it's time to refill. So we're going to utilize our pump, refill everything. Should take roughly 8 quarts. We'll find out. You can start it up. Well, I'm not going to start it up immediately. I'm going to go ahead and fill as much as I can, and then we'll start pouring it back. And I guess we'll just kind of see how it works. All right, so before I went ahead and took this out, I did do a quick check on the dipstick to see where it was at empty, or off rather, and it was literally to the very top. So when you're supposed to be checking it, you're supposed to be checking it while it is running and in neutral, I believe. So I'm assuming that sucks up some fluid into the converter or wherever else it goes, and probably has it somewhere within this range, which is fine, but it's just something to know. But I checked it before because I figured if I fill it up to the very top, it should be about the same as what it was before. Maybe not, but that's what I'm going to go with, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, should be interesting. Haven't noticed, don't really know what I'm doing. I'm sharing with you guys my experience for this particular one. All right, so I'm not sure if I just missed that, but if not, here goes. So I just went ahead and finished pumping it up, and it took almost, I probably got about a half quart left. It took about 7.5 quarts, give or take, to get it to that same tip top point, which is where we were at before. And just pop this little plug closed. And I went ahead and poured it into the old container, which I'll show you in a second. For one, on the exhaust, I'm obviously gonna have a nice smoky little ride until it burns off. Just kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So probably have about 2 or 3 quarts, I'd say about 2 quarts in here. You fill this up, so this is a full total of 4 quarts up to the top of here. And then based on this, I'd say probably have half a quart in here. So based on what we used on the transfer case, it was right around here. So I'd say that's probably fill it up right about here when we put the old stuff back in. We'll do that in a minute, but that's about right. So basically, yeah, if you get 8 quarts, you got enough for a transfer case and transmission with a little bit left over. So I'm gonna move this into another clean container, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour the rest of this in and see where we're at fluid level wise. All right, so this is how much we have left. So it looks like first quart, 2 quarts. So we got 4 that came out and 4, 5, 6. So about 6 quarts that went back in, which sounds correct. I don't know where my math was coming from earlier, but yeah. We used 2 out of the 8, and then there you go, bingo. So these are the extra that I have over here. I went ahead and set aside. You can see that's what good trans fluid looks like. And I'm holding on to that because I'm actually gonna dump this out, pour it back in just so I have it. And then, yeah, if we want up or low and I check later, we'll add more. That's really about it. So easy day there. We go and get the car off, and that's pretty much gonna do it. So obviously it's gonna smoke a little bit once that's done, but I'm happy with that. It's good enough, and she should be all set. All right, so it is the next day. Went ahead and drove the Expedition to work today just to see how it was gonna do. Shifted great, didn't find any issues there. The oil filter did actually fix the oil leak. That was the last little bit that was dripping, I think, taking it on and off 3 times, just too many times. Bone dry now, which is awesome. So those little puddles down there can finally disperse and get the heck out of my life. Other than that though, everything's been good. GT500's been good, Prius has been fine, and pretty much good to go. So pretty happy with how everything turned out. Got to go dispose of my old fluids, and then we should be good. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Sorry the transmission part of this video was a little bit sloppy. I don't know. I think I was getting tired. I don't know what really happened, to be honest, but it is what it is. It worked in the end, which is what matters. Hopefully you guys can learn something from this, maybe learn from my mistakes, and feel free to subscribe and like the video. So I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.